Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond Waste podcast. In this episode, carrying on with our presidential theme, I'm thrilled to welcome our two new presidents. So that's CIWM president and then CIWM's early careers president, Vicki Hughes and Emma Mulligan. So welcome both to the podcast.
Hi, Leah, lovely to see you. And you, Emma?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So great to have you both on. So just to kind of kick things off, because I don't think the listeners will have heard from either of you just yet, but they're going to hear from you a lot over the next year or year and a half. Vicki, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of your experience in the sector?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I've been in the sector now for over 20 years. I think it's 22 years now. And I joined as a consultant, actually. Prior to that, I was working in ceramics, and I was also general manager of a rubber manufacturing company. When I had my first child, I decided I needed to not be traveling backwards and forwards to Manchester every day. So decided to become a consultant, going into companies, helping them to grow and develop their businesses. My background is sort of strategic marketing and sales, but I'd also spent all my career in manufacturing. So went into a company who were manufacturing animal bedding, and they happened to be using waste wood as their raw material. So I didn't actually think I was in the waste sector. It took me a while. It took me a minute there to figure that out, because actually for me, waste wood was a raw material, simply was a raw material. So it was, what can we do with this raw material that we have, and how can we make the best from it? So we developed a whole range of recycled bedding products, and also a lot of standards were raised as well. So we worked out, we didn't talk the same language even in our own little part of the sector. So there was a lot of time spent trying to standardize things. That got me involved with the Wood Recyclers Association, the WRA. And I have been the technical lead on the Wood Recyclers Association now, must be coming up for 9 years. And I was also very proud to be appointed as the first woman to the board. So we're celebrating 25 years this year. And I think I've been on the board now for 3 or 4 years. So so I work quite closely for the WRA, do a lot of work around technical work with the Environment Agency and CEPA and NRW, etc., around legislation, and other trade associations as well, when they're trying to look at various parts of how to make things practical. So it's kind of, how do we get from what's written down to actually what works on a site? And having spent all my life on a manufacturing site, I kind of get that we talk a different language very often to regulators. And so a lot of my role is just changing the language so that we can get on the same page somewhat. So that's a little bit about me.
That's really interesting, and congratulations as well, first woman on the board. That's amazing. Love that. It's so interesting, isn't it, how many people are in the sector without realizing they're in the sector. I feel that's a reoccurring theme with lots of people we talk to, especially when you come at it more from a circular economy lens, and like you said, using that wood waste, people not actually putting that kind of 2 and 2 together. So it's really interesting that you came through that kind of funnel as well, almost.
Yeah, I find that a lot. I find when I do speak to people that when you explain the product side of things, and as you say, the circular economy, without using the word circular economy, because I do think if I asked 10 people, even circular economy experts, what circular economy meant, you'd get 10 different answers. So I think the language we use is really important, and I think it's changed over the years, but yeah, it is a common and reoccurring theme, and we all fell in it as well. We didn't actually know we were going to be here and stay. That's another reoccurring theme, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And kind of on such a growth and trajectory that the sector has been on as well. It's really inspiring to see the level of change. I mean, I've not even been in the sector like half as long as yourself, and even it's changed drastically since I've been here. So yeah, definitely interesting to explore that a bit further today. And Emma, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, as well your experience, and kind of what brought you into the sector?
Yeah, sure. So I'm one of the weird people that I actually chose and wanted to work in the waste sector. So I was doing a degree in environmental science at the University of East Anglia, and I was doing a year in industry, and I applied for and got the position to work as a year in industry student for Norfolk County Council on their closed landfill sites. So it was a great year. I felt like I got given a lot of responsibility considering. Got to go out, drive one of the pool vans, got to go out to landfill sites on my own. And I was responsible for doing gas monitoring and checking around the sites, and then reporting all of the information back as well. And then once I was in the office, I got to do a little bit of report writing and understanding a little bit more about kind of the actual technical background of landfill sites and how they work. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I think then is when I was like, yeah, I definitely want to work in waste. But I wasn't really sure exactly what role I wanted to do. So I applied for a couple of different positions, and I felt that going into consultancy would give me kind of the broadest range of skills. So I joined ACOM and did their graduate program. I was there for a couple of years before moving over to a different consultancy, Capita, and a part of the Capita that I was in was acquired by WSP. So I was there for few years. And then recently I've actually moved company to another consultancy, but it's a smaller, more of a startup company called Rooted Environmental. Only been going just over a year, with a really small team of 7 people. So that's been different to the large consultancies I worked in before. But yeah, all of my experience has been mainly in consultancy. And I've really enjoyed it. Got to do a lot of different projects, a lot of different opportunities. I feel like every day I'm learning something new about the waste sector. I've been involved in CIWM since when I first started at ACOM, because my line manager was really heavily involved. So she was really keen to get me to sign up to be a member. So I've joined events ever since then. I've been the Professional Development Network Chair for London and Southern Counties. And from then, I heard about the Early Career Ambassador role, and that's when I applied to do that. So yeah, it's been a good journey so far, and I'm just keen to see what it brings in the future as well.
That's amazing. It's amazing you've been able to get so much experience so early on in such a variety of different parts of the sector. And to use a phrase from our immediate past president and other past presidents, Tim Walker and David Greenfield, you're a true waster. So you were one of the originals that wanted to get into the sector for the sector, which is amazing. And interesting you started in landfill. So the other episode we picked up on ISWA, so the International Solid Waste Association World Congress that CIWM are helping to host at the end of this year. And we've just been going through a review of all of the technical abstracts, and landfill is one of kind of the reoccurring topics there that's really of interest. So I think there'll be some content there, Emma, that maybe your original venture into the sector might be interested in, as well as everything else, of course. So in terms of, while we're on it, ISWA, what are you both excited about for the World Congress for later this year? I feel like there's a great opportunity there for us to kind of showcase obviously what we're doing in the UK, but as well really showcase that global knowledge sharing opportunity and hear and learn from one another, as it is an international event. So Emma, what are you looking forward to? And then Vicki, what are you looking forward to for that event?
I would say I'm looking forward to maybe showcasing what we've got on offer in the UK. I know it's held in London, and I'm part of the London and Southern Counties region. So I know as a committee, we're really excited to showcase what we've got to show about all of the different all of the different waste sites that we've got in the area, all the different cool, unique things, such as like having barges that transport waste down the river. I would say I'm also quite excited for the networking opportunities that it might bring. Getting to meet people from different parts of the world is something that I probably wouldn't get from any other event. So that would be a really cool experience.
For sure. Yeah. And yeah, the London and Southern Counties Regional Committee have been pivotal in bringing our site visit part of the agenda together. So well done to the team on that. It's looking to be a great roster of opportunities there. Vicki.
I think it's about, for me, it's showcasing the journey that CIWM has been on. I think we've changed dramatically over the last, I think it's 30 years since it was last here. So I think we've got a real opportunity to kind of go, that was us then, this is us now. I think as Emma said, the networking is going to be great. The ability to learn from other people, but also to share knowledge. I think one of the things that there are a lot of countries who are not as far ahead as us. So can we help them to shortcut some of the learning that we've done, and the things that worked and the things that maybe didn't work quite so well? I think the other thing that's really important as well, though, and I agree, the London and Southern Counties Regional Committee have been amazing, and some of the site visits look incredible. But also the wider membership is engaging, and I think that's really, really important for me. One of the things that I did over the last couple of years, I've been the chair of the volunteer steering group, and so that's meant we've had a lot of engagement with all the regional committees. And I think what that shows me is just how much knowledge there is in our regions. I mean, it's incredible. Whenever you go to any event, wherever it is in any region, the knowledge and the people that come up and share their knowledge is fascinating. And I think this was a brilliant way for those regional committees to actually contribute to the overall event. So whilst it's based in London, I know that the Scottish Regional Committee, Ireland, Wales, everybody is getting involved. And I think the call for experts, call for papers, it just makes us, for me, CIWM is about the network we have here. It's networking with lots of other people, but actually CIWM as a network is incredible. We have so many brilliant people in this network, some of whom are better than others at telling their story and getting involved. And every now and again, there's something that comes in that inspires the people who maybe not as confident, or maybe feel they don't have as much to offer something up. And for me, that's brilliant. That's a great opportunity to keep spreading that learning. And I think ISWA does that. ISWA gives those people who may not normally feel they've got a voice, I think it's given them an opportunity to get involved. So yeah, looking forward to it. I think it'll be a brilliant event.
Yeah, definitely. We're so lucky to have the range of expertise and professionalism that we have across the CIWM. You're so right. And yeah, all of the points you've raised, both of you, I'm also very excited about. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an event not to be missed. And speaking of an event that wasn't to be missed, 2 weeks ago, we had the presidential inauguration for 2026, where you both became our current presidents. Just give us a bit of a flavour as to what that was like. So for anyone who's not been to one of our inaugurations, what does it look like, what happens, and yeah, how did it go?
Shall I start, Emma?
Go for it. Yeah.
Well, for me, it was quite a hectic day. So we had the North East Regional Committee, who I'm a member of, had a showcase event in the morning. So that was great. And we had it at the Guildhall in York, which is this incredible medieval building. So the venue was amazing. The sun was shining. We had really good presentations from local businesses that are based in the Northeast, some great conversations. And then after lunch, we had the actual inauguration itself. And the process for that really is that the president, as is, which at the time was David Greenfield, David basically gets to wear the chain, and kept teasing everybody that only had it for about 5 minutes, didn't he, Emma? And then, so the inauguration itself is basically, it's a very formal ceremony. It's long. It's it's set down as to what happens, and you pass the chain on to the various different offices. We heard from David and all the things he'd achieved and wanted to kind of, as his last statement, say that he wanted people to take away. We also heard from Charlotte about all the things that Charlotte had done. And then Emma and I got our respective chains. And I have to say mine's slightly blingier than Emma's, but you only get to wear it for the day. So I was milking it. I didn't want it. Rebecca was having to prize it off me by the end of the day. And it was brilliant because we got to launch the Think Again campaign, which I'm really passionate about. But more importantly, the networking that goes on there is incredible because people make such an effort to come to it. I mean, York is a beautiful city and we had a fantastic turnout. But it is time out of people's day and it is kind of something they have to commit to. And they did, and they enjoyed it and they had a great time. So, and then in the evening, we have a more formal dinner, and the Lord Mayor came to the dinner, which was very lovely. She was an absolute sweetheart and even had a chain off with me, trying to figure out whose chain weighed the most, which was surreal and probably something that will stay with me for a long time. But, so for me, it was a lovely event. My family were there as well, my children, my dad, my brother. So actually for me, it was a lovely, lovely event. I couldn't stop smiling all day. and probably since. The sun was shining, even though it threatened to rain, and it was amazing to see all those people in one place, to hear the stories that what people have done, and to really sort of amplify what we're going to do going forward. So yeah, I had a great time. Thanks.
Amazing. Awesome. Emma, how did you find it?
Yeah, it was my first experience of going to a presidential inauguration, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. So I got quite a lot of advice beforehand on what to wear because I wanted to make sure I was wearing the right stuff. Um, so I met a lot of people that I'd not met before, um, as well as some people that I had met. But we had some great conversations, um, getting to know what people do, all the different jobs that are in the waste sector, as well as learning about um, what Vicky's going to be doing in her year as president as well. It was really really interesting. Um, the meal in the evening was really enjoyable, and then the weather was absolutely brilliant as well. I think we were very lucky with the weather when we were there. And it was a beautiful place. I'd not been to York before, so it was great to see the city as well. Yeah, I had a really great time.
It sounds like a lovely and also inspiring day with all those different things going on. It's so nice to be able to kind of showcase, as well as we said, have the dinner and everything, but to showcase local businesses, etc., is a really lovely touch. And David also referenced the bling, unsurprisingly, in the last episode, that came up as one of his benefits. So
Yeah,
one of his perks, the bling.
We had a conversation beforehand where we were giving him time frames to say if he didn't take it off, we were going to have to wrestle him to the ground to take it off. It's actually quite heavy, and it has to be pinned onto your shoulders. So it's not like a case of take it off and throw it over. It's kind of a bit of a thing, but it was it was great. And like I say, lovely to see everybody, the people that were there, the conversations that go on, and the I've had so many emails that are not just about the fact it was a lovely day, but actually about the fact that they networked with people they haven't seen in person. And I do think that after COVID, we've lost that in person, and the webinars and Zoom meetings are all brilliant from a efficiency point of view. They're brilliant, but I do think there's something joyous about seeing people that you know but don't know that well in person. And as Emma said, being able to have those connections and those conversations in real time, I just think that that's what makes it such a lovely event, that people who have really strong opinions, people who have real opportunities to create change, are in one place, being able to have enough time. It's not just a quick meeting, it's a a whole afternoon, evening. Some of the conversations were brilliant and genuinely are going to make a difference going forward. So for all it was a nice event, and and fabulous for everybody to be there. It is really important, I think, those human connections, we keep them going, because that's where you create those relationships that carry on for years.
Definitely, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And as someone who works on CIWM and CEI's events, it's something that we're really conscious of, is trying to build like a mix of those accessible opportunities, like you said, whether that's webinars or online opportunities, but then to have those hybrid setups or those in-person events that foster that more collaborative nature, which you can't quite replicate on a screen. So it's great to hear that that was able to happen in person. And kind of carrying on with that then, Vicki, coming to you and thinking about the year ahead, what are your hopes and your aims for your coming presidential year?
Well, it's basically we started off with the principle: when you become junior vice president, you have to be interviewed by the members council. You have to think about and put a big proposal in beforehand of what you're going to do. And for me, I think because I'd spent the previous 2 years working on the volunteer strategy, I'd spent a lot of time with members and with regional committee members. And what I felt was that there was such a lot of incredible people who had fallen into it and who had kind of turned around one day and gone, I'm in this. I was in wood recycling. I wasn't in the waste sector. I was in wood recycling, owner operator of multiple sites in the UK. That's what I did. Actually, I was at the core of the circular economy. So, but I hadn't really framed it like that. So taking all these conversations and kind of thinking, how do we get more people to enjoy it like we do? How do we get more people to understand the passion that when you're in, you have, but also to see the opportunities, which I don't think many people see. And so right the way from the JVP kind of interview process and the presentation, I kept sort of coming back to, it has to be about what members need, and members need more people in this sector. Members need to know what opportunities they can have. There's quite a lot of people that have been in our sector a long time and have been CIWM members particularly for a long time, and I feel like they are also stuck as well, because we've changed language. We now talk about the circular economy. We talk about resources, not waste. We talk about, technical advances. And there are a lot of people that you talk to when you're going around the various regions who go, well, I can't really do that. I'm a bit old to learn a new thing, and I don't really understand what that whole thing is. And that's why I say people, when you ask them about what the circular economy is, will have a different answer. So I think what came to me was, I really want to be able to give something back. That's what this is about. That's what volunteering is about to me, always has been. It's about what can I give back? And newsflash, what I figured out quite quickly was, as much as I give back, I get tenfold back in return. But I think if we're trying to give something back, you have to listen to what the members want. And what they want is more people, more clarity, and for our sector's visibility to be better, so that they don't have to have a conversation like I've had around my dining room table with my children. What do you want to do when you grow up? I clearly don't ask them that, because they just roll their eyes at me, but along that lines. And if I say, well, what about the waste sector? Their friends are there and they all look at me like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to work on the bins, and I'm like, okay, how about sustainability? Yep. How about recycling? Yeah. How about circular economy? Yeah. Okay, well, that's all the waste sector. So, it's that the problem was language. So for me, what it became very clear was that we're just not talking the right language, and we're not making our sector, we're not visible in the way that our sector is, in terms of how attractive it is, how opportunistic it is, how many things that people can do that who aren't necessarily directly involved with handling waste, which is absolutely vital, by the way. We cannot get away from the fact that the girls and guys that work on the bin wagons and sort the waste and segregate and do all those incredible jobs are the backbone of our sector. So we can't forget that. And again, a big key part of our membership. But likewise, there are a lot of people doing jobs that I think if they just understood other bits better, they might understand it. They might be able to see themselves in it. So Think Again was born out of the fact that I said that's what I was going to do, and then I had to figure out how to do it. So you get a steering group when you're a president. And I wrote down a big vision of what I thought this would look like. The steering group looked at it and went, okay, Vicki, we get it. You don't want to report, because I didn't want to report. Everybody knows this now. It's old news. I didn't want to report. I wanted something that could develop and grow and breathe. So the idea of the campaign came as that part of that process developed. I worked with Trewin from Sizzle and this great steering group who I was completely overwhelmed by, to be honest. Emma, you were on it as well, weren't you? And yeah. There was all the great and the good. And I can tell you, I felt like a little girl at high school. And they were just so good and so pragmatic. But what came out was, actually, we don't know why they're not picking us. So why aren't people picking this as a career? Why do people fall into it? Very few do pick it. And what the report, the research that we did basically came up with something that was quite startling. And that is that people weren't rejecting our sector. They never even saw it. They never even discovered it. So the interviewees that we were talking to, basically, we asked them if they wanted a role in this sector, and they said, no way, not for me, not even going to look at it. I'm not going to stop. If the word waste is in the advert, I'm not even going to stop. When we then said, what about the fact that we need IT people, we need accountants, we need marketeers, we need podcasters, we need all these things. They were like, oh, really? We never even thought of it. That's just not what we thought this sector was about. So quite quickly, it became apparent that actually the issue isn't the roles we've got. It's how we talk about the roles and how we talk about the sector. So the whole Think Again campaign, as it says in the title, is to make us all stop and think again. And there's 3 big parts to it. One of them is to think again about how we describe ourselves. So when we're talking about, when we're looking at jobs and roles, quite often we focus on the skills needed in that job. And so we talk about the fact that you need to be able to be a data analyst, or you need to be able to be a product marketeer. And in reality, what we realized that the new audience, if you like, the new entrants to our sector potentially needed to actually feel that they belonged to something. So they were solving a problem. So instead of a data analyst, you're talking about somebody that's creating a future of sustainability. The minute you change the language, people kind of go, oh, okay, tell me more. Let's hear about it. So one of the big things is that we want to help businesses to change the language that they use so that they can attract more people and stop them skipping past the adverts in the first place. The second thing that I think is really important is that we get case studies. People like to see who they are, like to see themselves reflected somewhat. So if everybody that is talking about our sector is of a certain demographic, then that makes it inaccessible to other people in their perception. So one of the big calls to action with the campaign is, firstly, people sign the pledge so that they basically agree to change their language, review their language, and change their job adverts. So we change that narrative. And then they also share stories. So they get people that can, in a 30-second clip, say why I joined, what I love about it, why I'm staying here, kind of thing. So really interactive, so that people can see themselves in that and actually see all these different roles that we've got. We're asking for and have had a number of people getting in touch saying, well, I'm quite happy to talk about my story. I'm quite happy to talk about how I started as an apprentice on a YTS. And now I am actually CEO of a multi-million-pound company. And not everybody will have that journey, but somewhere along that route, it shows that progression. And then the third thing is we're incredibly good at talking to ourselves. Incredibly good. We love to talk to ourselves. We love to tell everybody that'll listen just how good this sector is. And one of the things that's struck me is, if we're this good at talking to ourselves, if we just turned around and talked to other people and other sectors, imagine how much we could amplify the message. So one of the key resources we've got a website, but one of the key resources we're trying to develop is actually a set of slides or resources that everybody can go out and use. So it isn't reliant on me trying to get around every school, every university, every trade association.
Vicky's not going home for a year.
It actually is about trying to have some resources that where people can go, okay, well, I'm going into my local school. So have you got a set of slides that I can use that allow me to talk about what Think Again is and this sector in a more wider scale? So that's kind of the principle. It's let's showcase in the best possible way what this sector has to offer, using language that is the right language to attract the right people, that doesn't scare them off. And then let's talk to everybody outside of the sector so that they can hear it.
That's really inspiring, and it's so nice that you've been able to give so much focus on those three different steps. Obviously, they're so pivotal and so integral to one another, and especially obviously things like EDI, etc. It's amazing that you've been able to build that in as such a core focus. And definitely the echo chamber kind of piece linked to stage 3 or step 3 is definitely something that I think a lot of us are aware of and notice. What do you think has been one of the barriers? Because I know we're all internally, like you said, we're so passionate, and we do kind of bang on those doors to say, kind of listen to us. There's so much opportunity, whether that's for jobs or from a financial economic perspective or a resource perspective. What do you think has been almost that kind of barrier to those conversations really happening and creating change?
I think it's that people perceive that they know what our sector is.
Right.
And I think it's exactly the same with policy change. Whenever you say we're from the waste sector, however proud we are of that, and we rightly should be, because without our sector, things just collapse in a heap, as we've seen in various parts around the country, quite literally. That means people have a perception, and what we've got to do is change the perception, because even policymakers, ministers, people with purse strings, local governments, the minute you talk about waste, they have a natural perception. So for me, it's, and that's the same with publications. It's the same with trade events. It's the same with speaking events. Now people might turn around and say, well, we know about simpler recycling, but that's to do with bins. And we know about DRS, but that's to do, do you see what I mean? We're talking about things that for people are very pigeonholed, and they go, well, that's just waste. It's kind of what's in the bins. And I just feel like we have to change that narrative. We have to stop it. As I said before, waste is absolutely critical. But all the other things we're doing, the circular economy particularly, and how we're viewing resources, how we're designing out waste. In reality, what we should be doing is focusing on designing out waste. And in 20 years from now, we'll have very little waste to talk about. But ultimately, there will always be waste. So we can't get away from it. What we have to do is make sure that we expand the narrative, though. Make sure we're talking about more than just bins, bin wagon collections, food waste collections. And that's what I don't think we've been doing. We try, but it is really hard. So what I was thinking from the perspective of this Think Again campaign, and what the steering group were hoping, is that because we're going out with messaging around how we create jobs, how we change a role, how we talk about and change the perception at that level, it's going to take some time. And like I say, it isn't just about me, and hopefully it will be going on long after I've stepped down as president. But the aim is to try and change that narrative so people don't automatically go, oh, you're from the waste sector, I know what you do. It's like, well, no, you don't. You don't know what we do, because you don't understand the fact that we are looking at cutting edge technology to recycle these materials because they're precious metals, or you don't know what we're doing in terms of some of the technical advancements that are going on in packaging, in product design. They're just not visible till we get to the end of the process. And I think what we've got to do is get better at showcasing some of those things so that we can stop people from going, well, it's just the waste sector.
Yeah, that's so true. And it is almost like that negative connotation, isn't it? It's like, because we're at the end of the supply chain, people kind of think of us as like just the stop, like a full stop, and then it's like, oh, we'll just forget about that. But actually, as we know, there's so much opportunity, and especially, like you said, with the investment and the advancements that we've seen in recent years, it's incredible to see such a drastic change. And kind of linking
also,
to...
Sorry, Leah, that also is the change in the people that are in it. You know, I've been in this sector a long time, and it was very heavily male focused. And you know, I'm not one of these women that bangs on about the fact for women to live. I think actually it's a hard life, whoever we are, male or female. But I think for me, the perception of it was a male dominated sector, that's changed dramatically. You know, there are so many more women, incredible women doing brilliant things. And I think at the inauguration, I think we were probably more women than men, which for me was a big, hoo-ha. But ultimately, some of the women that are in our sector doing huge things that are, you know, technical advances, chemistry and product design, and things that actually are maybe a bit more creative, that maybe wouldn't have even thought of this sector before. I think we're on a cusp of something. We just need to push it. So that's what I'm hoping we're going to do. And I do know, going to Emma, that the early careers have been doing that since their inception, basically. That's one of the reasons to try and inspire that next generation.
Definitely. And we've got 3 leading ladies of waste on this podcast, if we're not too shy about it. But yeah.
We're not.
Awesome. So kind of wrapping up then, Vicki, thinking about obviously your role as president. You've been involved with CIWM for a long time, as you said. What sparked your interest initially in applying and now being president?
I think, again, I'll be honest, when I was at Hadfields, we were looking at how do we reach our target audience, and our target audience was local authorities, waste management companies, people who manufacturing companies. And so we got involved with CIWM as a sponsorship opportunity. So through Ginny, and she came to us and said, we can do all those things. We can give you awareness, we can give you visibility, we can get you networking. And so we started actually randomly. I was thinking about this last week. One of the first things we did was we actually sponsored a presidential inauguration in London, which must have been about 10 years ago. And when we were in York, we actually had a photograph that I think this is not, when I say oldest, I mean the furthest back in time, but we had Margaret Bates and all the presidents since then. We actually had a photograph taken, and I remember Margaret's inauguration and Trevor's and Dan's and all the and Anna and everybody in between, and Adam, of course. So I'm trying to think who I've missed off that list before I get told off. Tim. So but I think having been involved as a corporate person, as not as a member, I could see the value of not only from a awareness perspective and our branding perspective, but also the fact that all these conversations that were going on and all this networking. And so eventually I thought, I need to do this. I need to become a member. And then I got chartered, and then I became a fellow. And somewhere along there, just after, well, not so long after maybe, I saw the advert for trustee. And I thought, this looks interesting. What is this about? What do I have to do? And somebody spoke to me about it. And then I had a conversation with Sarah. And I said to Sarah, I like the idea of this because it's about the governance and it's about direction and strategy, which again is my background. But I said, I have to tell you, I'm not a grey-haired old man. And from what I can see, that is a lot of what we have in this sector. After we'd both stopped kind of, laughing, Sarah said quite clearly, that is the aim. We're trying to change the organisation. We're trying to be more representative and we're trying to move it forward. And I have to say, I've said it many times, but Sarah and the team at CIWM have done an incredible job in moving us from the traditional background we've got, keeping all of that heritage and all the important things we learned, but actually moving us to a place where we are still attractive and still relevant, and continue to kind of grow and develop. So yeah, I think it's probably 10 years or so, 10, 12 years I've been involved. I couldn't be happier. It's been a great opportunity for me. And the presidency, again, I was kind of cajoled into applying. And there was, I think, 4 or 5 of us who went for it. And I was very humbled to have been chosen. So yeah, it's a great process.
That's really inspiring, and hopefully for people listening and with the relevant expertise needed for the role, hopefully that inspires you to potentially apply for when that opportunity arises again. So that changes every year as well, just so everyone's aware. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved with CIWM in lots of different ways. And now coming to the both of you, so something that we touched upon with our immediate previous past presidents, both Charlotte and David, was around the vital roles that members and membership play when you're in your presidential roles. How did it feel to have those kind of votes of support in getting into these roles? So from Vicki, from your side, from our whole membership, and then Emma, yours more from the early careers team themselves and the ambassadors. How did that feel? And Emma, we'll come to you first.
Well, I was really, really surprised. I think I was on holiday when the results were announced, but Charlotte dropped me a text, the past early careers president, and yeah, I was very shocked, but also really grateful that the other early career ambassadors thought that I was up to the task. I think there was quite a few people who had put their name forward. So I was just really happy that they thought I'd be the best one out of everyone. But I think equally anyone that put their name forward from the ambassadors could have done just as good a job as I could have done. So yeah, I just really hope that I make the rest of the early career ambassadors and everyone else proud over the next year and carry on with the great work that Charlotte has done.
I definitely think you will. And you've got such a close-knit team. Everyone's so driven for the goals of what the team are aiming to do. I think you'll be a great leader at the helm of that for the coming months. And then Vicki, for yourself, how did that feel?
Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said there, Leah, because I've been party to the early careers team since the beginning, and actually did the interviews for all the original ambassadors. And they are so impressive and so spectacular in terms of their energy, their enthusiasm, their knowledge. And I've said it many times, but they are definitely, write them down, Leah, because they are going to be the people you will have on your podcast going forward for many years, because they are definitely the leaders for our sector going forward. And Emma's a great choice in terms of next president. So yeah, definitely going to do great things. I know it. For me, it's a slightly different journey for the president, and you apply to be junior vice president first. And presidency feels like quite a long way off, if I'm honest, because the whole focus is on the JVP application, and it's a long process and tight deadlines and, 2,000 words. But it's well worth the effort of doing it, because then you get to present in front of the Members' Council. So Members' Council are a member from each of the regions that is nominated to sit on Members' Council. And before that, your submission and your CV and stuff are circulated to the regional committees, and then we present, and then they do they judge and basically see who's best fitted. So it kind of feels like a job interview, but then I think you're doing the job of JVP, and then all of a sudden they go, "Yep, you've got it. That's great." And you go, "Oh my goodness, that actually means in a couple of years I've got to do something different." So it's incredibly humbling, and you feel like you've joined a new team. And I have to say, the presidential team is great. It's lovely to feel like you're not on your own. And I don't think that's actually always been the case. I think that's something quite recent, that the team has really started to act as a team. I think previous presidents, it probably was quite a lonely role. Whereas now we do have regular meetings, and we can swap and change as we need to. And if people can't attend something, somebody else attends. So I think it's a great privilege, and yeah, I'm really honoured to have the opportunity for this next year to go out and represent the members, because for me that's always been the key thing.
Definitely. And yeah, that collaboration is such a key part of both of these roles, isn't it? In the different pools that we've mentioned, and kind of to our collective goals as CIWM and moving the world beyond waste. So great to hear that you both felt inspired as part of that journey as well. So now, Emma, coming on to yourself. So our second ever CIWM Early Careers Team President. That's a pretty good title to have. What are your hopes and aims for your presidential time?
So we've kind of been thinking a lot about the fact that it's amazing. So many other early careers people want to get involved, and obviously we only have a set number of ambassador spaces. So my hope for this year is to try and come up with a way to get more people involved as more of an early careers community. Not exactly sure what that looks like yet. Yeah, just maybe it could be part of like setting up a CIWM Connect page, or another idea that's been floated around is maybe having like a WhatsApp community, but basically just a way to get early careers people in the waste sector talking to each other, forming those connections, because as we know, it's really important at the start of your career to form those connections at the start and develop them as you go through. So yeah, just a way of getting people to meet each other. Potentially, if you're going to like a CIWM event, you don't want to go on your own, you're scared you don't know anyone, maybe somewhere you could drop the community a message just to say that you're going, and then other people can reach out and say that they'll be going along as well. So at least you'd have a friendly face in the crowd. Yeah, as I say, don't exactly know what kind of form or shape that's going to take over this year, but hopefully by the end of this year we'll have developed something that means more early careers people can start talking to each other.
That's really exciting, kind of almost not having those boundaries to explore all these different opportunities and what that might take shape into becoming is really, really exciting. And also it definitely feels like a sector that is like someone knows someone who can help you. It's always like if you speak to one person, they're like, oh, I know so-and-so and they've got what you need. So it's very much that building, like you said, that close-knit community, isn't it? And those connections.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've only been in the sector about 6 years, but being involved in CIWM kind of from early on in my career has really helped me develop those connections, both with not just early careers people. I've developed a lot of connections with people that are at later stages of their career as well, and they're so good at imparting wisdom and advice as well. It's been really useful.
Yeah, definitely. I have found from like time to time, you almost get into like philosophical conversations with like exes who have been in the roles for so long. They kind of share all the knowledge, and then you end up spiraling down like the meaning of life conversations just because everyone's so lovely and you're able to build those connections, which is great. I don't feel like all sectors kind of have that level of rapport. So it's lovely that we're able to foster that, and as a membership kind of take advantage of that as well. So in terms then of catching up with Charlotte, so when we spoke with her, she mentioned an alignment with her presidential aim when she was our president of the early careers team, and something that I think you're keen and the team are keen to carry on, is that kind of building collaboration opportunities with universities and trying to showcase, as we were saying earlier with Vicky's campaign, the diversity in terms of the opportunities available. Have you got some plans that you're able to share, or some ideas you've got around how you might continue to support that this year, or things the team have got in the pipeline?
Yeah, so I think we've learnt a lot in the last year and a half that we've worked as early career ambassadors. Um, we've engaged with a few universities, and for example, some of our ambassadors went along to a drop-in session at one university, and they only unfortunately had one student actually come along to the session. Um, so I think this year we'll focus a bit more on maybe guest lectures or career fairs that are specifically for the waste and resources sector or like the environment sector, just so we know that we're going to get good engagement at those events. Because at the end of the day, we are all volunteers, so we don't want to go somewhere and feel a bit like our time's wasted when we go there. We want to make sure that we're getting the maximum engagement as possible. And I think by maybe focusing in on events we think we're going to get more engagement is going to be a lot better use of our time.
Yeah, definitely. I think somewhere as well that hopefully we'll be able to support you as well as the CIWM team is, again, as we were alluding to earlier, the kind of wording that we're able to use in terms of our digital content and creating those kind of snippets. And I know the team do a lot of reels and things like that, trying to reach those different audiences in the ways that they're wanting to receive that information. And like you pointed out, everyone is voluntarily doing this. So really making the most of those touch points is critical and is key, but also really inspiring and exciting that you're able to kind of carry on and build on those relationships with the universities. In terms then of the synergy, so obviously we've touched upon Think Again and the campaign with Vicki as a presidential year. In terms of ways you're aiming to kind of collaborate as part of that work potentially, what are those opportunities do you think over the coming year and beyond?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of close synergies between our two aims, and us as an early career ambassador team are really excited, and we'll obviously be there to support Vicky with her presidential campaign. So as Vicky mentioned earlier, I was involved in the steering group for the presidential project. So the early careers voice was kind of heard right from the very start, which was really amazing. And I'll definitely be keeping in close contact with Vicky over the next year to make sure that we're aligned on our objectives and making sure that as early career ambassadors we can deliver anything that she needs us to deliver. I think I see that maybe the early career ambassadors could be a bit of a driving force behind actually delivering the campaign. So if we're going along to events, or we also have an early careers LinkedIn page as well, and we can develop some content that would help to share the message. So yeah, I think we'll be working closely together in the next year.
Definitely. I anticipate a lot of collaborative projects on the horizon, and I think Vicky's going to get dragged into some of these reels that I'm hearing about as well, potentially.
I do think that the early careers have got a huge part to play because, early careers not just kind of new entrants. Obviously, they are new entrants, but it's under 10 years worth of experience. It doesn't have to be straight from university. And I think the diversity of people on the early careers team is really important. And yes, I think I will be roping them in to do all sorts of stuff that we haven't really sorted out yet, so we'll let that settle in. But it is about amplifying voices but being consistent in what we're saying. That's the other thing. You asked why we don't always necessarily get heard, and one of the things that I wanted to say was that consistency of message. We're not very good at being consistent, and that's not because we don't try. It's because our thoughts, policies change and the speakers change. One of the things about this campaign that I would like to try and get is that we use similar language so that it hits harder. You know this. Ultimately, when you're trying to market something, create a message point, you try and stick to some key messages, core messages all the time. That's hard in our sector, but on skills particularly, I think we can. And I think that resonates really well with the early careers ambassador team and what they're trying to do as well. So I'm hoping that should be an easy sell.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting, something that we've noticed as part of the review process for some of the ISWA content, where we're kind of spanning into, as we said, more of an international audience. Even people who are within the sector, and obviously the sector as we call it, the difference in terms of how people use phrases is really, really interesting. So where we've obviously said like circular economy means quite different things to different people in different locations, and even kind of more what you could argue was like core waste topics to a degree, like some more maybe of the legacy topics that are just pivotal to our sector. Again, the wording kind of resonates slightly differently. So it's been interesting to see when we've been reading submissions, etc., where actually we're talking about very similar things or even the same thing in some cases, but actually just using slightly different wording. And then all of a sudden we're kind of looking at it going, is that what it's saying it is? And then when you read into it, you're like, oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
Fascinating. That must be fascinating, because I totally agree with you. And I
Yeah.
think that is part of the barrier, that if you can't figure out what the core messaging is, how do you say it loud?
Yeah.
It's all those numerous voices saying the same thing, and we don't say the same thing. You know, that's a challenge, I think.
Yeah,
Oh, it sounds
definitely.
interesting though. I can't wait to see what their lineup for ISWA is.
I
Excited by it
know.
already.
I don't want to like give too much away just in case I'm not allowed to, but it's very exciting. But yeah, no, definitely a topic I think that we should be picking, or we will be picking up as part of the Congress, is that narrative and that language, like you said. And I think what, like you said, within the skills focus of this, and having a more of a UK focus as well and a spotlight, definitely having that synergy will be critical. So coming to you both then, we're going to kind of span out now, out from the presidential roles and more into your everyday roles and your focus on the sector and what's going on. What are you seeing as current drivers for change within the sector? So when I'm talking about that, I'm scoping in resource waste, circular economy. We could also look at wider sustainability, net zero, etc. So what are you seeing as kind of current drivers for change? And Emma, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, so I would say probably I always think that a top-down approach is quite successful. Looking at the policy, having the policy in place to kind of set a standard. But I think it also needs to work for businesses as well. Again, coming to the word collaboration, I think that is key. Organisations in the sector need to be talking to governmental bodies that are drafting the policies and vice versa. I think it needs to work throughout the waste sector. It's all good having a policy in place, but it needs to be deliverable as well. So yeah, I'd say like a collaborative effort, which I think we're starting to see a bit more of. I think the government is starting to listen a bit more to the sector, and when they are saying things will not work, testing out ideas more as well. So yeah, I feel positive about the future.
Yeah, definitely. And Vicki?
I think my everyday life is around all the new legislation that's coming in. I kind of have a fear for business, and coming from SME background, as you know, there is a lot changing, and change for big business is quite easy to do. I mean, it's not easy full stop, but it's easier. They've got resources, both time, money, people. For a small business, legislation changes like the digital waste tracking, brokers and dealer changes, simpler recycling, all these other things that are coming in are really difficult to manage as a small business, because most small businesses are trying to do the day-to-day stuff. And therefore we don't make it easy. And so then what happens is people fall foul of those various things, and then we end up having regulators having to regulate. And there's a lot of time on with regulators regulating sites that are trying really hard to be compliant and really hard to follow the process, but it's constantly changing. So I think there has to be proportionate regulation, because I think that is key at the moment, and with all the change that's going on. And that isn't to get away from the fact that there are definitely sites that will take advantage. And basically, illegal waste, as we all know, is a huge topic. And waste crime, the impact that has, not just because it's the waste crime and we see these big piles of rubbish and everybody gets very irate about it, but actually fundamentally we ought to be saying, has it got to that point? And also, how is that impacting the other businesses in the chain? Because in my sector, in waste wood, we've had situations where legitimate legal businesses have been basically unable to take material because last year was a really bad year, and to be fair, so is this year panning out to be in terms of waste wood offtake. But last year was particularly bad, so they're saying no to sites bringing material in. Their prices are going up, which is impacting local authorities. Some local authorities aren't able to take material. They're then having regulation on top of that, and more regulation and more visits and more regulation, more costs. And down the road, somebody's opened a field and starts dumping wood and taking wood in. And you're just like, you can see people going, why am I bothering? What is going on here? And I worry that there is a whole layer of industry that is going to stop wanting to be involved because it's too difficult and it's too complicated. And whilst I'm all for raising standards, one of my big things is let's make sure we do this stuff properly. I actually do think we're in danger of losing some really good people in our sector because it's too hard and we're making it too hard. So it works for the big boys, but for the smaller boys and girls, it doesn't. So I think a lot of change all at the same time, and it's all been delayed. It should have been last year, but now it's this year, and then this is this year, and this is this year. It's a lot. There's lots of changes around exporting of waste, which is causing, again, a whole swathe of our sector to go, why are we bothering? Why are we bothering to do this? It's really hard work. So if I go out, I would say we really need to start thinking about, as Emma said, not just creating policies for the sake of having a policy, which might be the right thing to do, but we should be listening to our sector, because we're the ones that day to day have to wake up, go and sit on a weighbridge and work out how the hell we make that piece of paper say what it's meant to say when it ends up being something that comes from policy decisions made miles and miles away. I don't think we do that very well. So for me, I would say we really need to start listening to the sector's voice. CIWM, CEI are perfectly placed to be involved in that, as are other trade associations, of course. But I just think we need to stop thinking about everything coming from big waste management companies, because the UK as a whole, UK and Ireland as a whole, is not just big business. We are run on lots and lots of small businesses, and I do worry that they are being completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, there's a complexity really here, isn't there, in terms of those layers. There's so many layers to this, and the level of complexity that then comes into that, it's borderline mind-blowing when you think about the level of regulation that you've constantly got to adhere to and adapt to and take on board, etc., and then find money to fund the relevant change. Yeah, it's incredible what the sector and the people within the sector are able to achieve, given the constant change, like you said. And it is almost like a catch-22, isn't it? Because you don't want to hinder progress and innovation and that the scope to becoming more resource resilient, and obviously things like DRS, etc. But equally, 100%, as you said, we can't then lose so many critical people of the sector because we're making it so complex to operate in the first place and do a great job.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's harder than it used to be, and in some cases that's absolutely right. You know, there was definitely a time where there wasn't enough scrutiny, but I think we've now gone the other way. I think the scrutiny is too much on the sites that are trying to do the best they can, and not enough necessarily on the places where people can, you know, as I say, waste crime's another big topic that I'm sure is a whole different podcast. But yeah. I think it is that kind of the uncertainty of what's coming down the line, not just what they can see. They all know there's more coming. Dan Cook does a great slide where he talks about all the different legislation changes that are coming up over the next so many years, and it's mind-blowing. Yeah. So, you know, if you're a small business, every now and again able to put your head above the parapet to go, what's going on in the bigger world, it's scary. It's a scary time. But I do think, I'm bound to say this, aren't I? And in fact, I've got no contract anywhere to tell me to say this, but CIWM has so many resources, and I'm forever pointing people to the website to say, EDI is a big one for small businesses. They, you know, again, big businesses, easy to do. Let's employ somebody and call them an EDI specialist. Small businesses don't have that luxury, but there are resources because CIWM and CEI have put time into creating resources that smaller businesses can use. So, you know, there's so much on the website that people can download and benefit from as members that benefits their businesses. And genuinely, I'm not paid to say that, just so you know.
But it's a really helpful plug, so thank you for that. A natural plug, as it were. In terms then, keeping it kind of policy, regulation, legislation focused for a moment there. With the recent news, obviously with the change of Prime Minister within the UK, we naturally know that's now going to have knock-on effects, and something that the sector was awaiting on kind of imminently because it was already delayed was the circular economy growth plan that obviously a lot of people had fed into, including our immediate past president David Greenfield, and obviously we're aware of the volume of work that went into that in terms of sector roadmaps to deliver on more of a circular transition. What are your thoughts on the delay of that release? Like at this point, we don't really know, from my understanding, and hopefully I'm not wrong, we don't actually know when it's going to come out. So what do you think the knock-on effect might be of that, Emma?
So I think there's probably many organisations that are waiting for its release to maybe think of their growth plans or future strategies in order to align with the new plan. So I think, yeah, I guess it's frustrating for them that it's delayed for its release and not knowing when it's going to be. I guess it's a hard decision for them to make whether they go ahead with any future ideas that they have or whether to wait for its release, which who knows when that could be. But yeah, I understand there's obviously the authors of the plan. I wanted to make sure it's the right time to release it. So there's obviously probably a good reason. But yeah, frustrating.
Yeah, and Vicky, from your side, do you think because there's been such a delay with the release, obviously for valid reasons, as Emma's just said, do you think there's potentially this idea forming that maybe the circular economy isn't that high up on the government's agenda, given that this knock-on effect again and again potentially, and knowing that it's almost quite a critical area for the sector?
I think that there is a knock-on effect because I think it makes people concerned. As Emma said, people don't invest if they don't know where to put, where the investment is going to go. However, let's be perfectly honest about it. Whatever the timing the government does or doesn't do, we're still going to need resource efficiency. We're still going to be talking about circular economy. We're still going to need skills for this sector. So I think it's still a huge opportunity for us. I think the government need to get the finger out and get on with it, to be honest. But then that could be said about so many things that's going on in government, because they have, it's been one of those, whatever political party you align with, whenever there's a change, it means everybody goes on hold and stops. Adam Reid's campaign around, Dr. Adam Reid's campaign around skills, it created this incredible report that went in, and then there was a change of government, and all of a sudden the wording was different. The new government wanted new wording, didn't change the content, didn't change the outcomes, but it didn't sit politically. For me, that's a missed opportunity, and I genuinely think that, I would like to think that we've now got another change, but actually that creates impetus. When there's something new, it usually creates impetus, sometimes frustratingly because they want different wording and so on. But you would like to think that there is an opportunity for the government to reform and actually kickstart it. And, let's hope that those things that are sitting on shelves and on emails somewhere, actually somebody goes, just get on with it. Just get on with it so this sector can actually deliver some of the stuff that whatever government's in power keeps promising people.
Yeah, and linking to that then as well, and interesting you raised our past president, Dr. Adam Reid's work there as well. Do you think enough emphasis is actually put on the potential of the sector in terms of us being a driver for change, not just for things like resource resilience, but for job opportunities, for economic opportunities? Do you think there is, as we've said, we are a bit of an echo chamber and people don't really understand to the degree of what we have control over? Do you think there is enough emphasis put on that potential, or do you think it's kind of falling a bit flat at the moment?
I think it's falling flat, and I think it goes back to what I said before. We all talk slightly different language. So we talk circular economy, we talk net zero, we talk critical materials, we talk, waste. So add all those together, and if you're, as I say, my background strategic marketing, if you are trying to sell a message, you need consistency. They're all different things, and they all mean different things. And if I asked the three of us what each of those things meant to each of us, we'd all have something slightly different. So I think we're not joined up enough. That's the key one. We do not have a strong enough joined up voice. We've all the different trade associations, we all say slightly different things because we're representing different memberships. I get it completely. But actually, sometimes I think there ought to be more emphasis on what we say that's the same, or very similar. But like you said before, Leah, you read these reports, it's the same, but not quite. I think that's part of the problem. I also think, if I'm honest, other sectors are better at it than we are. You know, the energy sector are listened to. They are impactful. They've got resources and they're listened to. And I kind of want to knock on the window and go, why? Why are they doing that so well and we're not? So I am going to be knocking on many windows and many doors to say, what do we have to do to get better impact for what we're saying? Because what we're saying is so valuable. What our input that we can have and our members can have is so important. Why are you not listening? Because I think it is around the fact that we talk about too many different topics in slightly different ways, and therefore there's also, let's be honest, there's a merry-go-round in politics where people are always changing roles. That doesn't help. Just when you find somebody that actually does understand what we do, they change in their role and their portfolio changes. So how do we ensure that we keep that consistency? That has to be about language. It has to be about simplifying the message so that amplifies the voice.
Yeah. Curious question off scripture. Do you think that if we have synergy, so let's say we create a really clear, almost glossary of terms, and we have a very clear strapline around what we do as a whole sector, do you think if we then went to DEFRA and DESNES and everyone else that we touch directly or indirectly, that would land and they'd understand our relevance? Because obviously within their respective right, they're also different departments looking at this very differently as well. So yeah, I'm wondering whether I totally agree we need that synergy, but it's interesting that even within government, each department then has its own narrative and its own language and everything else. So yeah, what do you think of that?
I think it's a great idea. I think anything we can do to create something that we all can stand behind, but I don't think it can just be a CIWM language. I think it's got to be something that as a sector we can get behind. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's the other thing that drives me insane. We spend so much time making things perfect. And I do think that some of this in the circular economy plan, the amount of time and effort that people put in and the committee that they got together, some stellar people in this sector spending their time to create something for the rest of the sector and for government, to then for it to sit for months is just, it's a shocking waste of resource. So you kind of look at it and go, we have to make it wide enough that it's inclusive, but we have to get on with it and not make it perfect, because perfect today isn't, perfect tomorrow is never going to come. It needs to be good enough. It needs to be active. It needs to be able to be changed, constantly listened to and updated, but something that we can as a sector will get behind. And I think that's kind of the principle behind why we talk about simpler recycling and the way we talk about it. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I tell anybody I'm in this sector, the first thing they say to me is, why have I got a brown bin now for food? What do I do? What days does your bins get collected? And why is it only every 2 weeks? And the very fact that simpler recycling hopefully will address some of those things, and collectively as a sector we're talking about food waste and we're talking about making things more standardized, has got to make it easier. So the principle for me is, if we can find a glossary of terms that we can all get behind, that we consistently use for all those different audiences, I think that would be absolutely amazing. And maybe we should do that. Maybe that should be a thing. And we should, start that process and then start all using the same language as well.
Yeah, definitely. Not to throw something out there for the team to work on, but I think Early Careers would be an amazing group to bring that to life, Emma.
Yeah.
It sounds like a challenging task, but yeah.
I like it. You're up for it. You do that. It's no
Definitely, yeah.
As someone who is newer to the sector, how would you describe the sector, Emma, in terms of from a language perspective?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Vicky has said, and I guess it's quite clear from her campaign that when I thought of waste, I definitely initially thought of like just bins, and even when I went to deliver a career talk at a school in London earlier this year, and it was a group of year 6 students, and at the end I opened up to any questions, and the only questions I didn't get any questions of like how did you get into the sector, what kind of things, what was your favorite topic at school. The only questions I got was if I had a pen, what bin should I put it in?
No way. Oh
And
my
it just continued.
gosh.
Every question was, if I had this, what bin would it go in? So I think, yeah, I think that just proves that even after I delivered a talk, trying to get them interested, that was the only questions they had. So yeah, I think maybe still, yeah, messaging on the other roles that are out there. Maybe I was too focused on my role, and I didn't kind of advertise that there was marketing things out there. So I guess it's on everyone to kind of demonstrate the other opportunities are out there. Maybe I didn't showcase that well enough.
Well,
Yeah, and I think
I think
even maybe the visibility on social media as well. So like you see adverts on the TV for like joining the RAF, or I see a lot of Day of the Lives on social media, but it's never of anyone in the waste industry. So maybe visibility of the different opportunities would be good as well.
yeah, I think that is part of it, Emma. And I have to tell you, a year six is a tough crowd. That's
yeah.
11 and 12-year-olds. I mean, they know everything, been everywhere, done everything. So you got away lightly with the pen question, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah,
say, I think that was just a harsh crowd as well
yeah, I
to
think so.
deal
Yeah,
with.
that's hard work. But I do think the social media part is important. That's again part of the Think Again campaign, is think again about how we talk about ourselves. Social media, if we're trying to attract new people into the sector, we have to not think of just our traditional routes to get into it. You know, that it's that's a big part of it. Hence, we're trying to get those video diaries. I'm looking at you two now going, perfect candidates, where we actually interview you. And, you know, that's what we use in terms of the posts and blogs and various other things, because that is how people get their content. That is how people learn now, isn't it? The amount of conversations I have around the dinner table, which have all stemmed from something somebody's seen on Instagram or Facebook, if you're old, and TikTok and all the rest, you know, and that is how we download our information. So, and we're not there. We don't talk to those audiences in a way that is going to resonate. So, language and
It's
reach
visibility
really
almost, isn't
important.
it? Yeah. Yeah, visibility. That's one of the reasons, funny enough, that we kickstarted the podcast, was because we were having a conversation internally as an events and content team, and we were talking about, again, similar to what we've been saying today, kind of language, but also showcasing our relevance beyond our core audience. And obviously we know how digestible podcasts are, and they're a different way that people kind of engage with knowledge and content. So it's great to have you both on this episode to kind of talk about Think Again, and obviously the wider work that you're both doing, to hopefully then show people who listen to this, who maybe aren't even members or kind of traditional, maybe parts of the market that we would think of, the relevance of what we do and how they can get involved. So to wrap up then, last kind of question, a couple of questions we've got. So when we spoke with Charlotte and David, we asked them some advice that they would give you both, other than take advantage of the bling. There was some very nice things in there to enjoy as part of your presidential time. And they were very aligned on what they said in terms of referencing and the opportunities, and the opportunity to really engage and lean on CIWM's regional committees and the passionate people we work with was a message they both really strongly echoed, along with the fact that the time really flies, so to enjoy the roles while you're in them. When you reflect back on this, so at the right time, you'll be back onto the podcast in a year or just over a year's time, and we'll be asking you, how did you find your year, etc., etc. What's something that you're hoping you will have achieved?
I want to be able to look back and say people have engaged with our sector on a wider, from a wider audience perspective. I want to feel like we have changed the narrative in terms of we're talking about the opportunity, not the job roles, that we've showcased more people, that there is just that extra visibility of our sector as a whole, as opposed to one particular thing. So I would love to be sitting here and being able to say we've got so many more people in our sector. I think the fact that we need 68,000 roles in the next 10 years is something that should focus the mind on, actually we have to get people in. This isn't an optional nice to have, it's a nice campaign. It actually is a real business need for our sector. So yeah, I'd like to think that in 12 months we can turn around and go, well, actually, we now have people from different places. We've got more early career ambassadors that are coming in as a result of it. Yeah, and people understand our sector a bit better.
Lovely. And Emma, what would be your one thing?
I would say that I hope after a year and a bit, that I've created something that's enabled early careers people to feel like they've managed to engage or connect with other early career professionals. Yeah, whether that be at an event or connecting online, just a way of, I guess, expanding the community further, and in a way, not just for people already in the sector, also people through career fairs, apprenticeship fairs, just spreading the word a bit further and hoping to make more connections.
Awesome. And I think as well, as we've said, with both CIWM and CEI's membership and our reaches across those two audiences, hopefully we'll be able to deliver on both of your wishes there. I'm sure we will. But yeah, we're at time now. So thank you both for joining us for a lovely conversation. I hope you've enjoyed. It's been really inspiring to hear about what you're hoping to achieve. And like I said, we'll get you on in a year or so's time to reflect and share all the great achievements that have happened over the coming months. But yeah, thank you both, and we'll hear from you soon. And for everyone listening, we'll catch you on the next Beyond Waste podcast.